What is up? What's going on, guys? How are you? It's your boy Hebot coming back at you with another video. I'm going to give my 2 cents on the Nintendo situation, reveal pricing, anti-consumer practices, and the hypocrisy that we've clearly seen with Nintendo, even though, most people are not calling it out, and the ones that are complaining, they're just complaining about one thing and not the other, mainly due to pricing. And when there's a lot more things to, really pick and pick out and talk about, a lot of them are, and to be honest, this is good. It's good that it's happening, because when the entire time that the Switch has been out, all you have seen from every single person, or majority of people, whether it's influencers, whether it's Nintendo fans, whether it's media, is nothing but sucking the nutsacks out of Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch is this, the Nintendo Switch is that, the Nintendo Switch is the greatest thing since Jesus Christ. And I kept saying that the Nintendo Switch is the most overrated system in history. Okay? And it sells, yes. But we seem to forget that the reason why the Nintendo Switch has sold is because they combined both their portable market with their console-based market. Console-based market. It is the reason why the Nintendo Switch has sold so many numbers and so many units. If the Nintendo Switch would have been just a console, it would have not sold as much as well as this did to this point. Okay? And that's just a fact. People are trying to act like Nintendo didn't get away from the DS and their portable and unified it. And just the same way that they try to give them credit as if they were the ones that came up with the concept and the idea of doing a console that is portable on the go, and at home it's a console, when that was done by the Neo Geo Gold many years ago. Okay? It was the same exact concept, worked the same exact way. They did it first. SNK, wasn't Nintendo. Okay, Nintendo stole their idea, then tried to patent whatever they did as if it was theirs, in their typical fashion, because this is what they've done since their inception. Okay, and no, I'm not gonna keep sucking Nintendo off because it's cool to love Nintendo. No. Yes, Nintendo played a big part in why gaming is still around, in the sense that they lied to keep it alive and saying that there was a toy when it was really a video game console after the crash in the 80s because of Atari. And they were able to save it because they lied to, outlets and sellers and vendors, saying that it was something else that it wasn't. And they got lucky, pretty much. And we got lucky as a whole, as a gamers and fans of the culture and gaming industry, because it was able to thrive again. But as far as what they've done, the real reason why things are the way they are, from pricing, all these anti-consumer practices, money hiding, exclusives that don't belong to them, third-party deals that don't belong to them, it's all Nintendo that started it. Nintendo started all of it. They started all of it. When they had all those stupid, rules, where they wanted people or developers, giving them ultimatum that they could only make 5 games a year, and if they make games for their console, they were not allowed to make games for any other console like Sega, Master System, and Genesis at the time. That's why they used to have also the Nintendo seal of approval, because those were ultimatums that they got, and they were basically telling these developers, we own you, and you do what we're going to tell you to do if you want to make set games. And at that time, Nintendo had a big market in the U.S. because it was the first one to release in the U.S. through their self-publishing and third publishers as well. Meanwhile, Sega had already been out with the Master System, with the Mach 1, the Mach 2, and then after that, the Mach 3 in Japan, and we're just trying to find an American publisher to bring out the Master System out in America, which ultimately ended up being Tonka Toys, which they had no clue how to advertise and market video games. They know how to do toys, specifically diecast, but not you know, actual video game consoles. So when they came out, their marketing, how they presented the system with the cartridges and the cartridges box, those things weren't as attractive as Nintendo because they had no experience in the space. Granted, as time went on, they got much, much better and did a better job. Absolutely. But let's not get it twisted. Okay? We're in the position we are in gaming right now with all these over saturated prices and bad practices because of Nintendo. They started all of it. Okay? And I don't care if you Nintendo fans don't get mad and want to hear it. Those are the facts. If you were there like I was from the beginning, in 79 to the 80s, 81, when Atari was the thing, when arcades were the thing, when you had machines like Pongs and Donkey Kong and Pac-Man all over the places, it was Nintendo who started this. It was not Sega, it was not PlayStation, it was Nintendo. And it wasn't Microsoft. So I've seen all these arguments. Give me one second. So I'm seeing a bunch of people trying to say that it's inevitable, that the $90 price hike is supposed to be a thing, and that, the gaming's not cheap, this and this and that and this. But when companies like Microsoft and PlayStation and Sony, right, with PlayStation, had the price hike, right, everybody was crying. Everyone in the media was saying this is unacceptable, this is this, and this is that. And then everybody's trying to compare it to a lot of dumb things that don't equate, right? For example, people are bringing up the old prices of yesteryear from the Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo era, and Genesis era, how games were $60, $70, $80. And this is true, absolutely. But there's a couple of things that you have to take into consideration. The reason why those games used to be expensive is because those cartridges required labor work. People had to sit down, solder the boards, solder the transistors, the diodes, and whatever the case may be, the chips, into the board, and then, they would have to seal them in and put them in the cartridges and label them, stamp them, whatever, and then put them in the box. Yes, there was machinery, but it was more hands-on because you had to do those boards with hands labor. It wasn't with machinery back then. So those boards and that labor work were very cost effective, not cost efficient, but cost effective, right? So that was the whole reason in why Sega and NES or NEC with TurboGrafx started to venture in the idea of wanting to bring games and put them into programs into a CD, and to changing the format and to make it CD based, to make game prices go down and more cost friendly and more cost efficient. That was the whole reason why the CD movement became a thing, which Nintendo still waited out because they had that problem that they had with Sony when Sony came in and did the development and research for them, even though Nintendo was the one funding it, to make their CD connection for the Super Nintendo, which then ultimately turned into a whole CD console because they knew that Sega was making the Sega Saturn, and they already had brought out the adapter for the Genesis in the Sega CD because that's how they did their entry point to figure out how it was going to work, how good or bad it was going to be, how would they be able to make it better, right? And this is why gaming moved from cartridge-based to CD-based, which Nintendo kept doing it even with the GameCube, where they kept doing it, where they did the micro CDs, which were more expensive because they were more compact and compressed, and the technology was more expensive, okay, at the time. That's why those prices were high up. But keeping in mind that on a cartridge and even on those discs and CDs, the entire games were inside those cartridges and in those discs. You weren't not getting the full-fledged game. It wasn't a digital code where you could only access it digitally, where it's basically you owning the license, right? And again, in Nintendo's case, they like to do this because they enjoy recharging people a maximum amount of money for the same games that came out years and years ago, whether it's through their backwards compatibility system that they charge about $20 for each game at the low or high spectrum of it, or be sometimes maybe a little bit higher for an old game from the Super Nintendo era or even from the 64 era. Meanwhile, right, they can, when people do them through emulators, whether it's through PC, through the Xbox, and they try to play them because they don't have access to the game because it never was released physically or hasn't been released since a console that came out many years ago. What they do is they go after these people on YouTube that do these streams and promote and try to like play these games. It's not like they're selling them to people. They're just showing that they played the game via an emulator because they were classic games they enjoyed when they were younger, and they're playing them in their modern console via an emulator, right? They're not selling the product. They're just showing you what they've done. And meanwhile, these guys are doing this. They go after them to try to sue them and take them to court, and Nintendo ends up winning because it's their IPs. Meanwhile, they're doing anti-consumer practices by not allowing people to have full ownership of things or giving them proper backwards compatibility with what they already own on said consoles, right? They want you to rebuy it and rebuy it and rebuy it. And that's the real reason why Nintendo doesn't want to do proper back compatibility, or doesn't want other people doing emulations on their consoles or on their because they want to keep charging you for the same game over and over again. Then they're also charging you $20 to upgrade old games like the Zelda game that was on the Switch 1 to give you the Switch 2 treatment, to give you just better resolution or better frame rate or added HDR. Meanwhile, Xbox, for example, gives us those free upgrades with OG Xbox and 360 games on the Xbox Series X with the power of the console. We get HDR boost modes, or added HDR. It's called the HDR boost mode. I mean HDR added, and then you get boost mode in some cases, and in some cases you get the full treatment with the whole resolution bump at native 4K with the actual better frame rates as well at 60 FPS, right? But it's free. It's not that they're charging you $20 per game. And on top of them charging you $20, they only have a selected few amount of games. And then they come and show you that the games that they have on the list, which are like 1,500 games for backwards compatibility, about 85% of them are not going to work properly. They're telling you ahead of front, they're not going to work properly, right? Or maybe not at all, or they might give you a problem all throughout. And then only 15% are guaranteed to work the way they're supposed to, right? Which also is showing you it's a form of emulation, because that's exactly what happens with emulation. You keep kind of finding the right drivers and ROMs to run the games correctly, where they run, at the best quality with no issues. But that it's a tedious process. You're doing it manually yourself. So they're using the same system. They're using emulation, but yet they don't want nobody else to use emulation on another console when they're not selling it. If you're not selling the product, what does it fucking matter? They're not stealing because you're not selling it. You're not making a profit out of it because you're not selling it to nobody to do it. You're not showing them how to do it. You're just saying you can play it through an emulation. That's it. Right? Yet nobody's crying about it. So the price count, Mario World, I'm sorry, that game is not worth $90. Not in no point in history or timeline is that game going to be worth $90. Oh, but prices are going up. Listen, Nintendo games do not cost what it costs Microsoft or Sony to make games. Sony spent $320 million for Spider-Man. The game may not be great, but that's a lot of money. That's real money. Just like Microsoft spent $500 million for Halo Infinite. Those are real top dollar, big budget, movie budget style, budgets for games. The Nintendo's Mario World did not cost nowhere near that. I guarantee you that the new Donkey Kong with the new Metroid Prime 4 and even the new Mario World, Donkey Kong and Prime put together don't equate to what Sony paid for Spider-Man 2 or what Microsoft paid for Halo Infinite, for example. Nowhere near that price range. There's no way that they even come close. You know, Mario World probably cost maybe 40, 50 million to make. That's it. And then the upgrade of the console is so minuscule using LCD. Do you know how old LCD is? LCD is shit. And the only reason why it's going to look nice still is because it's in a 7.5-inch screen, which is super small, super compressed. So it's not stretching the pixels in resolution. So you're not going to see the discrepancies on that screen. That is why they made the actual port or the base where you dock it to be able to bump it up to 4K 60 and 1080p 120 in certain cases, which is also another bullshit ass thing that I see out there pushing and trying to say that, oh, that the console does 4K. No, it doesn't. It does not do 4K. When it's on the dock, it can output 4K at 60 with selective games, and that's what they said. And the only one they mentioned to this point, I believe, was the Metroid Prime and the upgrade for Zelda from the Switch version, right? That's it. They didn't say that Donkey Kong had it. They didn't say that any of the other games they showed were supporting 4K 60 like the From Software game. None of that, right? That was not said. Okay, so for people trying to say that, that's also BS. They're not letting you use the same memory card, even though it's the same style. Saying that it's the EX one because it's accelerated, it's faster. But yet it's the same style. That doesn't mean anything. It should be able to read regular and XD because the micro card is the same exact style, the same exact layout, the way it's designed. So why can't it read both? Why do you have to go buy the XD ones forcefully just so that you can play your games? If it's because it needs more speed for the new games, okay, then that's understandable. But for the older games, you can still use the old style micro cards. There's no excuses. It's just like the Xbox, where you can use the old hard drive, regular, standard, or you can use the SSD, which comes also in the VMU form or the card form with the velocity architecture technology, right? So again, a bunch of bull crap. And then not only that, they're not guaranteeing you that every game sold physically at the $90 price point or whatever the price point may be will be included entirely in the micro card due to space limitation. It's not compressed. So then put it into micro cards, especially if you're charging $90. How you figure that's okay? $90? You don't own the game. That means it's still under an internet connection or an internet update or something requiring the internet. And yet y'all gave Microsoft all this bullshit hoopla with the Xbox One with the DRMs when it was going to work completely different, but it was a different form of DRM. But y'all said it was anti-consumer, they were stealing your rights. And now, no, it's understandable. Nintendo got to do this because the micro cards don't have enough space. So some games, the files are too big. So put them into micro cards. It's that simple. Or compress it, and then do the sacrifice that's needed with the games, is whether it's lower resolution, whatever the case may be, and let the doc do the work to give you a better presentation or a cleaner presentation, right? So no one's calling that bullshit out in comparison, just like with Microsoft when in 2013 with the Xbox One. Then that fucking camera that they're selling you for $50, right? so that you could do something that's old as heck with the chat, complete, talking to people with that C button that basically is under a paywall. So if you don't buy the chat, thing to enable it, when you can chat for free on the silver program and even on PlayStation with anybody. Granted, you may not be able to see a video of their face, right? But you can still do videos and do video recordings in 4K for free. It's not under a paywall. You understand? The only thing that's under a paywall is Game Pass with the online connectivity, so that you can play games online via Game Pass or cross-gen or whatever the case may be with other consoles. But they're not putting the chat under a paywall. You see? And you can talk to a couple of people. Maybe not as much when you have the actual online subscription. I think it's more. You can talk to up to 25 people. But with regular basic, it's up to 6. And they're giving you 4. That's it. The ability to talk to 4 at a time. And if you look at those boxes, when they show you those videos, those shits are like at 10 frames per second. They're horrible. Oh, so you can see what they're playing, or you can help them out and tell them what to do. That's horrible. You can do that on the PlayStation. And those boxes don't look shitty like that with the game shit. Then the game share is if you're in the same room. What kind of dumb shit is that? Only kids in a party will do something like that. You ain't gonna see no adults sitting down in a fucking Christmas Eve party playing no Mario together. Oh, let's play together like they're little ass kids. That's bullshit. And you ain't gonna see them in no Thanksgiving get together or no wedding or anything like that's the idea that people try to push that big adults do shit like that is mind-boggling to me. You walk around anywhere outside, you don't see nobody playing no Switch. Maybe in Japan when they're in the train or something like that, or in New York when they go on the train, maybe, if that. But you'll probably mainly see maybe teenagers, not grown-ass men, okay? Or grown-ass women for that matter. You ain't nobody going around playing no Nintendo Switch like, hey, look, while they outside in their travels, they go on vacation. No, they're going to pay attention to what they're going to, when they went on vacation, what they paid for to have a good time sightseeing and going to places in that place that they went to visit. They're not going to be fucking worrying about sitting down in the hotel on the beach instead of going in the water and enjoying the water and swimming and fishing, playing fucking Nintendo Switch. No. That's bullshit. That is a crock of dog shit. No. Ain't nobody doing that. Those Nintendo games will be so retarded because you don't see people doing that. Even teenagers don't really do that. Maybe a handful. I know. I don't see it on a daily basis. Like I was saying, that's bullshit. That's not even a thing. And then, didn't everybody was saying that when Microsoft is doing that, oh, they're spying on us? That they want to look at us and what we're doing because Microsoft is working with the CIA and the government to give us our information, blah, 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 invading our privacy, da, 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 da. And now everybody's like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is amazing. Acting like they've never seen that technology before. Bro, that is horse malarkey. The bias. And the Nintendo Switch has just proven what we've been saying. People like 100, myself, Legal, Sega Forever, Sega Man, Unlimited. A bunch of people that have been, even next gen, when they were talking and they were still on the Xbox side, how much bullshit bias and crap there's going on that is unjustified. And now with the Nintendo, they're trying to pity pat it. So you guys get what you deserve. You guys get to deserve. And if you go out and support the Switch at the $550 price point, which it's, like I said, it's not a significant jump. Yes, it has magnetized, dongles. Yes, you can use the thing as a mouse. It got some nice little added features. Fine, whatever. A better speaker, right, that drowns out the noise reduction. A better dock. All that stuff. Yes, fine. Maybe it warrants the extra $100 price point. Maybe. If it was $400, not $450, and definitely not $500, when you can get an S with way more power. And yes, the S is more powerful. That's another narrative of that. Like, stop it. Yes, it has the NVIDIA DLSS tech. But if you look at the games they've shown comparison, when you compare something like Hogwarts Legacy, the Hogwarts Legacy, everything looks better on the S than the Nintendo Switch 2. Then what they did was the character models look more detailed, but the background looks blurred out. You know, the depth of perception, right? The depth of field is blurred out. They did that to give it a little better look on the character models, but you can't see the background. It's not like the Xbox Series S that you still see the characters with detail, but you can also see the background and everything looks detailed as well. It's not blurred out. And then when you look at it as a whole, when you're out in the world of Hogwarts, whether it's flying on a phoenix or in in the woods, whatever the case may be, the details on the S still look better. And the S is a $180 machine at some points, because you were able to buy that for $180 during Black Friday last year again, and the year before that. But even if you buy it on a regular price, the S is still $300 and maybe $350, even with the black version, which is 1 terabyte. With real technology, like real built-in HDR Dolby Vision, not 10, Dolby Vision, which is HDR 12, with real support to DirectX 12 Ultimate, right? Which is a CPU-heavy engine, which gives you better performances with the frame rate, with real Dolby Atmos surround for high quality, not that imitation fake 3D shit that they put in the chip on the Nintendo Switch 2. The S is a much, 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 much higher quality machine for a much, much cheaper price with a much, much higher value, because you got Game Pass. You have an online ecosystem that runs on dedicated servers for every Xbox game, which any developer can use, but every first party uses them. Okay? You don't have dedicated servers. The ecosystem for online and their social, offering for Nintendo is archaic. It's from like 20 years ago. It's archaic. And you motherfuckers trying to act like it's the next thing since sliced bread. That is crazy. They are so far behind. And then you got the Donkey Kong game, which looks extremely boring because they try to put it in 3D. And he's just breaking stuff, which is cool, but you're just collecting crystal bananas. You barely fight any enemies. They don't show you fight any bosses. It's like open map, open world, where each level is like a big world, a big map. It just looks, the background looks like all the Mario games where they have nothing in the background. It looks like the board is floating in the air in incognito in the heaven. In the middle of the heaven is a big board, and the background is all plain and flat with clouds. Like, bro, dated. When you're playing something like Ratchet and Clank, something like, the new Banjo-Kazooie, right? Or, what was the name of it that came out there? With the green little alligator from the people who did Banjo, that one. Or you're playing stuff like the new Crash 4. Oh my God, excuse me. Or you play things like, like the Recourse and the Sunset Overdrive. Like, bro, Halo 4. Somebody did a comparison. Halo 4 on the 360, mind you, even with the 720p and the 1080p graphics, still looks more impressive than Metroid Prime 4. Make that make sense. It has more enemies, more lighting and shaders, more detail in the textures. It is crazy. And you guys can look it up. It's all public record. There's videos showing the comparison between Halo 4 and the new Metroid Prime. And remember, if you dock that Metroid Prime, you can play it in 4K 60 or 120 at 1080p. When you put that Halo 4, you can play it at 4K 60 on the Series X. I mean X, and on the S if it's the digital copy. It gives you the upgrade. And the Metroid Prime is just not touching it in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying that the same Metroid Prime looks bad. It doesn't. It looks good. Mario World looks good. They're going to be fun games. Of course they will. That's not the argument here. The argument here is that it's the same old games, new iterations with new tweaks and maybe some new ideas, right? And now they're trying to sell that for quadruple the price. Because if you buy the Switch with the bundle, Mario World Kart or Mario Kart World is $50. It's a $40 difference if you're going to buy it physical, and a $30 difference if you're going to buy it digital. You see? Big discrepancy. Big discrepancy. When you got other games like Doom coming out, and that game is like $60 and $70 unless you buy the, the collector's edition. It comes with a bunch of shit. But for the standard game price, with that type of high quality, with that type of technology and gameplay variation, and you're paying $70 for that, and yet you're paying $80 or $90 for Mario Kart World, you are smoking some serious Alpine. I don't know whatever you're smoking is beyond explanation, because what you're smoking is crazy. For you to sit there and try to even have the audacity to say that it's worth it, or that it's just people hating on Nintendo, or it's inflation, or tariffs, and get that tariff shit out of here. There ain't no fucking tariffs, because they had that shit planned for years, because the announcement was supposed to be last year, and they even pushed it back as far as the rumors go. They were just trying to figure out the right time to release it, and that's why they didn't even say the prices during the Direct, because they knew if they would have said it during the Direct, all that would have been was a bunch of backlash. Instead, they waited and made you go to their site so that you could see it there, and it was the YouTubers and people finding it on social that were like, what the fuck, $90 for a physical copy. And then in the details, it's saying shit like that some developers have the choice that they can make it cheaper or even higher. And then you're going to try to have to sit there and with a straight face and think that somebody like Rockstar, that they know they have one of the most influential games in history, even though I hate the game, because everybody wants to play it. Anywhere from a little kid, a gangster, people in prison, because it promotes all types of different things in the real world that like that shit, that want to play it. That's why it has so much impact and influence, right? That you could do so much things in the game that are fun or stupid, right? And you think Rockstar's not going to be arrogant enough, if they've been arrogant enough to not bring out a game for almost 20 years in the series and just making buku money out of it. Every month it's on the number one, or it's at least in the charts of the VG charts. Every fucking month it's on there. I think the only month it wasn't on there is when it was on Game Pass, for Christ's sake. And Game Pass paid them mad money, like millions, to put it on Game Pass for like 6 months. And then they took it out. You're going to tell me that they're not going to see that and be like, yeah, you know what? Let's make GTA $120 standard price. They're going to do it. Maybe not 120, maybe 100 flat. But the point is, Nintendo just opened Pandora's box, right? And everybody's trying to damage control it, or not everybody, a big majority of people are trying to damage control it, not calling it out. Meanwhile, they wanted to say that Microsoft was anti-consumer because they wanted to bring up the prices for the online, which is dedicated servers. It's a bunch of servers they have all over the world, which need maintenancing, which needs money to be put into it, right? They wanted to charge an extra $60 to make it $120 for the year to have online. And people were talking shit and complaining and crying until they didn't switch it and, change the whole thing. nobody was happy and they didn't stop talking. Bro, we gotta stop. I love that the hypocrisy has been exposed. I love that the Nintendo guy that try to act innocent, that try to say that only the PlayStation dudes are toxic or that the Xbox dudes are toxic, is exposing them, because it's showing them, it's showing you how petty and how bad even they are, even in comparison to some PlayStation dudes, even though the PlayStation fanatics are still the worst. It's showing you how petty and bad they are. They are sitting here talking all types of shit because they got arrogant with the Nintendo Switch. Since it's been idolized and praised, when all the Nintendo Switch is good for is for retro gaming. They got all the retro gaming because they get everything. That's the real reason. Because you saw how it started. It started strong with a bunch of cool games, first parties, third party, and then dwindled off. After the third year, it started dwindling off where they were barely making any first party exclusives every year. And then the third party exclusives were like barely there as well. Okay? And their third parties all sold horrendous. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Astro Chain, Bayonetta 3. For example, they all sold horribly. They didn't do well. Stop sitting there and say they do well on Nintendo, that they sell well because people on Nintendo buy games. No, Nintendo fans are conditioned. They'll buy the games Nintendo make. And again, they brought out a new console and they got no first party stuff that's new. They're doing the same thing again. A new Metroid, a new Mario Kart, a new Donkey Kong. Then next year will be a new Luigi, a new Mario Odyssey, and maybe a new Zelda. It's the same thing. And maybe a new Splatoon. That is it. They don't make anything else. They haven't made a new Kid Icarus in years. Since the DS Lite, I think it was. Lite, I think it was. They haven't made a new, well, okay, they made Kirby, but even though, like a Princess Peach, they haven't made a new creative IP, right? The way that people were doing with the Wii when Sega made the Conduit 1 and 2, which looked even better and were better games overall as far as diversity and gameplay mechanics than something like, let's say, like the Metroid Prime. If you guys never played Conduit 1 and 2, you owe it to yourself to play it. They were fantastic games. Sin and Punishment, you know what I mean? Like the way they had with their Batman Brave and the Bold from Way Forward, the Mad World from Platinum Games, right? Nintendo had way better games during the Wii. Way better games. And people didn't buy games. So even though it sold the most as far as units in that era, right? It didn't sell software. So that's why they jumped immediately to the Wii U. And then the Wii U became a travesty as well. And then these people walking around forgetting that Nintendo almost went bankrupt. They said it themselves that if the Switch would have never did well, they would have gone bankrupt. And they trying to act like these big tough guys, like, yeah, we got it like that because the Switch got them in their high horse, thinking they can't be stopped or they're unstoppable. Listen, the Switch 2 is an absolute garbage proposition. And I don't care if you can play on the road or not. Adults, don't worry about that. Little kids, yes, that's good for little kids and maybe some teenagers. But adult gamers and middle-aged gamers, we don't care about that shit. You probably take it with you to work. So when you're in your 1 hour lunch break, you'll play it for a little bit and that's it. That is it. And when you're in the toilet taking a deuce, you'll probably sit down and play some games, maybe like the way you do checking your phone. That's it. That's it. That's the only use you're going to get out of it. Don't come with that. You're going to go with your wifey and your family to Cancun or Florida to Disney World or something like that. Or to, Paris or Egypt to see the Egyptian hieroglyphics or whatever. To go, and then you're going to be playing your Switch there. You're not going to do that. That's a lie. That's retarded. It's a lie, and no one's doing that. No one. If you drive a subway every day to work, maybe you could use it there. And on the way back home. But those are just few and far between selected amount of people. That's not the normality. You go outside the world, go outside right now, you're not going to see nobody with a Switch in their hand. That's a lie. I've never seen it. except my friend Jorge, because he's a different spectrum. Okay, but that's besides the point. The point is, okay, the reality and the normality of things is you're not going to see that. You're not going to see that. So, is the game's going to be bad? I'm not saying that, no. But the games are the same old games over and over again. How can you make a franchise that you've made over 50, 45 years bad? You can't. You're not going to make a bad Mario game because you've made so many. They've mastered the art of platforming. They cannot not make it bad. They gotta try hard to try to make it bad because that's all they do. That's their MO. Their Kirby games, they're always platformers. Their Zeldas is hack and slash platforming. You see what I'm saying? All of it, it's always the same style with Nintendo. They don't really evolve or change and innovate the way they used to way back when they were doing silly things, but they were trying to innovate with like the Power Glove, right? Which is different. So, listen, nobody's calling out with the Connect shit, none of that bullshit. We need to call it out. This is bullshit. The hypocrisy, all that. Okay? And those are my honest thoughts about the Switch. I will not get that until I see it go down a little bit in price, and then I'll trade in maybe the one I got that Mr. 100 gifted us so elegantly many years ago to get some money maybe off of it. And I have to see that they make actual better games or more games, and maybe that those games have a better price point. If not, I won't even buy it. I'll skip it altogether. I'm not paying $80 for a digital game. And I'm definitely not paying no $90 for a physical game. You're bugging. No way. Because it's not only $90, it's also with the tax. When you figure by the end of the time it's all said and done, with the 6% and some places 7%, it's going to be like $95, $98. $100 for a game. What? For Mario? No. Bugging. I'll probably pay that for maybe a brand new Gears, a brand new Halo, where it's pushing the envelope, where its technology's there, when you see it, with the visuals, with what they're doing with the game mechanics, with maybe some AI functionalities and things like that, but not no Mario game that looks still like it belonged on the Nintendo 64, but with HD graphics. No. That's crazy. No. The game can be fun, but no. That's ridiculous. And their games don't cost much to make. So don't come with that rhetoric where, oh, it's because games are expensive. Yeah, they've gotten more expensive, but Nintendo ain't paying $300 million to make Mario. I'm sorry. Wrong. That's bullshit. Guys, those are my thoughts. I'm gonna head out. I know it's long. I hope you stay with me the entire time and let me know what you think about my thoughts down in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Share it with someone you think you might like. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you liked it enough that you subscribed. And if you did, thank you, because I know you didn't have to. But if you did, remember, I consider you now part of my family. For all you that continue to support me, thank you. Much love. I love you all, because without you, my channel would not be sustained to this point. And I know it's hard to follow me because I don't put up enough content consistently. But when I do, I try to make it quality. I try to make it worth your time. And I try to make it honest, fair, and with no disingenuity. You guys know what I mean. I don't try to be disingenuous, is what I'm saying. Okay? I try to be honest and real and as fair as possible. So guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Love you guys. You can catch me on any social media. It's all down in the description below that as well. I'll talk to you guys then. See you in the next one. Peace.